They finished the dishes in silence. Then, with the wind and his ancestors filling his thoughts, Gwyn rushed upstairs and opened the drawer. But he did not remove the seaweed. The first thing he noticed was the brooch lying on top of the scarf. He could not remember having replaced it in that way. Surely the scarf was the last thing he had returned to the drawer. The sunlight slanting through his narrow window fell directly onto the brooch and contorted. The shape slowly assumed the form of a star, then a snowflake. Next, a group of petals changed into a creature with glittering eyes before it became a twisted piece of metal again. Something or somebody wanted him to use the brooch. Gwyn picked it up and thrust it into his pocket. Grabbing his anorak from a chair, he rushed downstairs and out of the back door. He heard a voice as he raced across the yard calling him to chores. But the wind was too loud, wasn't it? He shouted joyfully to the sky. I never heard nothing. He banged the yard gate to emphasize his words and began to run through the fields. After 100 yards, the land began to rise. He kept to the sheep track for a while, then climbed a wall, jumped down into another field, this one steep and bare. He was among the sheep now, scattering them as he bounded over mounds and boulders. Stopping at the next wall, he took a deep breath. The mountain had begun in earnest. Now he had to be walking or climbing. Running was impossible. A sense of urgency gripped him, an overwhelming feeling that today, perhaps within the very hour, something momentous would occur. He stumbled on, now upon a sheep track, now heaving himself over boulders. He had climbed the mountain often, sometimes with Alan, sometimes alone. But the first time had been with Bethan. One summer long ago. It had seemed an impossible task then, when he was not 5 years old. But she had willed him to the top, comforting and cajoling him with her gentle voice. It's so beautiful when you get there, Gwyn. You can see the whole world. Well, the whole of Wales, anyway, and the sea and the clouds below you. You won't fall, I won't let you. She had been wearing the yellow scarf that day. Gwyn remembered how it had been streamed out of his head like a banner when they reached the top. It was not a high mountain, not a dangerous one. Some might even call it a hill. It was wide and grassy, a series of gentle slopes that rose one after another, patterned with the dry stone walls and the wind-blown bushes. The plateau at the top was a lonely place, however. From here, only the empty fields and surrounding mountains could be seen, and, far out to the west, the distant grey line of the sea. Gwyn took shelter beside the tallest rock, for the wind sweeping across the plateau threatened to roll him back whence he had come. He must surely have found the place to offer his brooch. Give it to the wind, Nine had said. Bracing himself against the rock, Gwyn extended his upturned hand into the wind and uncurled his fingers. The brooch was snatched away so fast that he never saw what came of it. He withdrew his hand and waited for the wind to answer, not knowing what the answer would be.